Hi y'all, Rowan here. Welcome to my channel if this is your first time, or welcome back if you've been here before. I just want to go ahead and warn y'all before we get into today's video, if you hear any shouting, screaming, or cursing from vaguely off screen, that's my husband. He's losing at Elden Ring right now, so that's what that is. But I am so excited. I have something very special planned for today. As you can see, I've got my little chime here. I have one of my decks, and I actually also have a new deck. So this bad boy right here, some of you may recognize if you've seen my videos. This is a deck that I made for myself with watercolor paper and watercolors. It is basically unshuffleable, unusable, but I did make it myself. It's an, oh my, I knotted this bad boy, didn't I? Okay, we're just gonna ignore that. This is my personal Oracle deck that I made for myself. It is 36 cards, it is hand painted, it is hand cut, hand backed. This deck is entirely handmade, except for, I guess, the paper and the paints. I did not make those by hand. So I guess it's not entirely handmade. Nothing really anymore is entirely handmade, which is sad. But it's about as handmade as a deck can get in America in 2024. And while I love it, it's almost impossible to use. I have used it on occasion and gotten good information, good readings with it, but you can't shuffle it any way except this way. It's too... like you have to do it the old-fashioned way. It's too long for my hand to grab, and even if I could, it's too uneven to riffle shuffle. I don't know how well you can see that, but I love this deck. I think it's great, but I never get to use it. So I went on to make playing cards. I uploaded all of the pictures, and then I also went ahead and made some extra cards as well, and now I'm left with my own tiny copy of the deck. I went ahead and made it on Make Playing Cards. I added some additional cards that are just text. So this went from being 36 cards to being 54 cards. So it's got 18 extra cards. I consider them an expansion pack to the original deck. I am so happy with how it turned out, and I have a little bit paired this with some of my other decks just to see how it works. And visually, it's really great. I have not, however, cleansed or consecrated this deck, so that's what we're going to be doing here today together. And I'm just flipping through so you can see everything that is in this deck. Unfortunately, this is not available for sale in any way, shape, or form, so I'm making an entire video about something that you cannot get your hands on. So I guess I'm sorry about that, but quite frankly, if any of you want this deck, what is wrong with you? This deck shows an insanely amateurish take on watercolor. It displays all of my faults with the medium. I don't know how well you can see the texture on this one, but this one was dry brushed over a translucent background. Yeah, I don't think anyone else wants this deck, but I guess if you do, leave a comment down below, and if there's enough desire for it, maybe I would release it. I can't imagine any of y'all actually getting good use out of this, especially considering I'm actually working on a second deck right now that I will be releasing to the general public, because I am so much better at this entire enterprise now that I've done it once. And my new deck has an entirely different concept. I'll actually show you a little bit of that here later on. This card right here is a big reason why I don't want to release this deck to the public. This just looks exactly like a Kim Kranz piece of artwork, and I don't want to get in her lane, you know? I definitely feel like I accidentally totally stole that card from her. And there we go. That is my 54 card deck. I call it the Texture of Color. And today we are going to be sanctifying this bad boy, consecrating it, getting it ready for use. So the first thing is I did make a bag for it. I made that immediately after getting it in the mail. It matches the bag for the other deck, the original copy, of course, just so that I know what's in it. The backs are also made by me. You may notice this design is also on my YouTube homepage. This is a trash collage that I made. These are pieces of trash. All right, so let us get to work. So the first thing I do when I bust out a new deck, after I have reviewed all of the cards in it and made sure I familiarized myself at least cursorily with the images that are on the fronts of the cards, I then like to use sound to cleanse it to begin with. So we're going to start fabulous. And then I like to turn it over to get the faces. That one was not good. And now I'm just going to kind of fan it out here a little bit. I have to admit that chime sound really reminds me of if you ever go to the theater. That's the sound that they make when you need to go back to your seats after intermission. So that's what that gives me. All right, so after I cleanse my deck with sound, then I like to use smoke. And since I have a handy dandy little incense going, we're just gonna pass each card through the smoke. Normally I don't do this card by card, but since this is a handmade deck and the entire deck does smell exactly like the printing line, I would like to go through and card by card smoke them, just to try to get some of that printer smell off. So I did not make a guidebook for this deck. I know exactly what each card is trying to represent. So if you did, for whatever reason, want to get your hands on something like this, you would be on your own with interpreting the cards. I can make a video maybe going through the interpretations if anyone would be interested in knowing what I think is important to have in an emotion-based deck, which is really what this is. This is meant to convey a lot of different emotions via the color and the textures that I have made here. I wouldn't call it an archetype deck. It's definitely an emotions deck. Anyway, each card does have a very specific meaning for me. I know what the meanings are. I know what it is. I have not written it down. I might someday, just for the funsies. I don't know. I think it's cool that I get to leave this behind. This is something that I have made exclusively for me. This is probably one of the first art projects I've ever fully completed in my life, quite frankly, except for like one-shot fan fictions. I'm just so very proud of myself for having started and finished this project. It was on a whim completely, and so the fact that I got all the way through it is just so cool to me, and it has given me the wherewithal to tackle making a second deck. So this one was only 36 cards. The deck that I'm currently working on is going to have a minimum of 40 cards. I might end up making more, we'll see. But like I said, we're going to talk about the deck that I'm currently working on a little bit later on. I want to get this deck all sanctified first. Mm-hmm. And I am currently wearing oils on my hands. I have a blend of 3 different oils on my hands right now that I consider my personal power blend. I went ahead and dressed my hands before I started the video so that as I handle this deck, it's getting that personal power oil on it. Some of these cards I did have to alter the colors on, like this one right here was showing up as like a brownish green when I scanned it. The camera cut me off and I didn't notice until I was done smoke cleansing this entire deck. So I have passed this whole deck through the smoke. But what I was saying when the timer ran out was that I did have to tweak the colors of cards like this one and this one had to be tweaked quite a bit. This is actually supposed to be a neon orange and it's still not showing up right. And on camera, it's not showing up right at all. In real life, this does not look quite so chartreuse. It looks way more lemon yellow. And this does not look like brown. It looks like a pale peachy color. So those neons just don't show up correctly when they're scanned. So those had to be tweaked. This one, for some reason, was just impossible to see. I did have to darken this one up quite a bit. It looked very pink when the actual physical card looks quite red. So that one had to be edited. And there was one more. This one. This one did not show up looking like flesh like it's supposed to. It just was barely perceptible. I had to up the contrast and the saturation quite a bit to get it to look like skin. But this whole deck has now been smoke cleansed. It has been cleansed with sound, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it through rosemary. I know we just did smoke, so we're going to do some more smoke because me and rosemary have a very strong relationship. I suffer from chronic migraines, and when I was a kid, my mother told me that rosemary oil helps with headaches, and she got me a little rosemary infusion oil jar with a sponge in it that I would sit there and when I had a migraine, I would sort of just huff it basically. And while I don't know how much it actually helped with the migraines, it has come to be associated with pain relief for me, with sickness relief. So rosemary and me, we're really tight because as a child, I always interacted with it with my migraines. And to this day, when I have a migraine, I will put some rosemary in my little herb heater thing, mabob, and let the whole house smell like rosemary. So that particular, it's my favorite cleansing herb. I prefer it over sage. I use it for just about everything. I use rosemary oil for obviously like headaches and smells, but I also use it for workings with wisdom, intelligence, any kind of healing. So yeah, me and rosemary, we're like this. But now I'm going to spend some time doing some energy work over this deck. So I will speed up the video so that you don't have to watch this in real time. I'll give you some cute little music to listen to. But I'm just basically going to be pushing my own personal energy into this deck. It is highly infused with my energy already because of the process of making the original copy, but I just want to make sure that this copy of the deck, this physical print off, this thing which still smells like the printing presses that it came off of. Ugh, gross. Yeah, I'm just gonna be putting my energy into it, so I'll be back. Okay, I definitely feel like this deck is soaked in my energy now. I will be sleeping with it in the same bed or under my pillow for the next couple of nights just to ensure that it and I are friendly, but it definitely feels vibraty to me now. And I would like to start taking a look at this deck with some other decks in my collection. So let me just clear some space here, roll up my sleeves. Let's look at it with the Fountain Tarot. I have already looked at these two together. This is the only deck that I have looked at with this oracle. So this one I know works with it, but we're going to try some others after this. The Fountain Tarot is just such a good shuffler. So to begin with, let us admire the backs together. The color palette works. These two just look good. All right? Or at least, in my opinion, they look good. You don't have to agree. This is not your deck. This is not for you. Ha 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 ha. All right, so we get the 8 of Coins, Tree Bark, and Knight of Wands. And you'll notice the tree bark has a lot of red in it. That's meant, in one, to keep the color, the brown color, very warm, but it's also really meant to evoke that idea of the trees as living things and bark as a protection for the soft blood that's underneath. So we get the 8 of Coins, we get protective covering, tree bark, natural support, and we get Knight of Wands. This card has some damage on it. I've been not nice to this deck, let me tell you. Then we get Queen of Cups, Queen of Wands, and Violet. Ooh, okay, so these are the extra cards that came in the deck. All of the text-based ones are what I consider to be an expansion pack to the deck. So the original deck is all of the watercolor, and there's, like I said, 36 of those, and then 18 text-based cards. So that was opportunistic of me, because on Make Playing cards, they have like 27, and then it jumps to like 54. And so I just had some extra cards that were going to be printed and sent to me anyways. So I thought, well, I might as well go ahead and do something with them. So I made the text-based expansion pack. It has 7 colors, the Roy G. Biv, and then different colors. Each of the Roy G. Biv has 7 additional colors listed underneath it, and then the rest, the other 11, are textures with an emotion associated with them. So the Queen of Cups, Violet, and Queen of Wands, to me, this speaks of softness underneath the harsh. So like we've got the Queen of Cups sitting in her water, in her intuition. We've got the Queen of Wands in her sunlight, in her fire. So these queens to me are opposite sides of a coin, where the Queen of Wands really struggles to tap into her own emotional state because she's so busy accomplishing things. Meanwhile, the Queen of Cups is so embedded in her own emotions that sometimes she doesn't necessarily prioritize herself, and she's overly empathetic to a fault. So the violet in between them speaks to this internal softness that needs to be recognized. Five of Cups, 3 of Coins, and Trapped by Sorrow. So this to me speaks of somebody who is currently collaborating with other people, trying to make something great, but who is bogged down by their own emotions in the process. And as such, the progress in the progress in the project is suffering. And like this says that you really need to get your emotions under control. You need to get your feelings of loss, grief, etc. under control, because you've got a project that you're working on. Other people depend on you. And as it stands, you are just not in a position to be working. So either you need to get your emotions together, or you need to quit the project. 9 of Wands, 8 of Wands, and okay, so this, some people that I have showed this deck think that this is a river. Some people that I have showed this deck think that it is lightning. Most people think it's a river. My husband had an interpretation for it that I've already forgotten. It was really unique. I think he called it a snake or something. I don't remember, but I liked that he had a different perspective. But to me, this card speaks, the red, white, and blue nature of it speaks to, as an American, it speaks to this idea of patriotism, but it is the flow of strong emotions that wear away at the riverbed and bring that with it. So when I made this card, it wasn't meant to be so patriotic. The blue was meant to represent emotions, and the red was meant to represent the staunchness of the self and how the emotions wear away at the self. So really, I guess river is the best interpretation of this, but I was kind of going for blood vessel. But that, in between 9 of Wands and 8 of Wands, tells me that there is something that you are fighting for. There is something that is keeping you going, and you may or may not know what it is, but in order to maintain your devotion to what you are doing, in order to maintain this stubborn attitude of I'm going to get it done, in order to make the inertia that you have built up, the speed behind your actions, not run you into a brick wall, you need to identify what your passion is and how it's shaping you. Because right now you are just being driven by the river. And as it stands, you're just going to dump yourself out into open water if you do not figure out what you're fighting for. So this card is meant to represent sort of the, okay, this card is all about healing, but it's about the slow, non-linear progress of healing. It's about the ways in which we deal with grief and sorrow when we're healing. It's about the ways in which we become sort of boxed in by our own limitations, our own emotional responses to the world around us. And it's like, you'll notice I've got this quasi vignette going on here with the shadows in the corners, and it's really meant to bring your focus into this dribbling blue. And so that, paired with the Four of Swords and the Emperor, to me tells me that right now you do not need to be ruling over your kingdom. Right now you do not need to be stepping up into this Emperor space. You need to step out of this Emperor space, focus on rest and focus on healing, because you are in charge of a lot of things. A lot of people look up to you, but you have to take care of yourself first. Six of Wands and Wheel of Fortune with the color red. Okay, so Six of Wands to me is a card that's about recognition of victory, not just the victory itself, but about the social and interpersonal ways in which victory affects our lives. It's not just, to me, the Six of Wands is not just about good news. It's about how good news affects everyone. And so the Wheel of Fortune is about how sometimes positive and negative changes are outside of your own control, and these two together speak to a need for recognition that you cannot get yourself, that you have to wait for the world to give you. And red is a color of passion. So to me, this says that you are in a position where you really need to be validated. You really need to have your projects seen, but you don't have any control over that. And quite frankly, you need to let that need go for now, because eventually it's going to happen naturally. Eventually, people are going to notice what you're doing. Eventually, people are going to see your victory for what it is. But right now, you are filled with this desire to have that recognition, but it's not going to come. I mean, it will eventually, but not anytime soon, and you need to stop waiting for it. The world turns in its own time. The High Priestess, Rot, and Strength. So this card isn't just about rot, but it is meant to evoke this idea of mold, of slug, of slime. And so the High Priestess and Strength with this card in the middle says that there is something that you have recently learned about that was previously kept from you that is eating you up inside, and you have to be strong while you deal with it. And I know that you can, but I'm just here to look you in the eye and say, hey, that sucks. That really sucks. I'm so sorry that you had to find out about it that way. I'm glad that you know, because now that you know, you can respond appropriately to whatever this negative information is. But right now, you don't need to be responding. Right now, you need to be coping. Like that's what I'm getting here, especially with the Strength card supporting it. Information has fallen to you. It's not good information, but you can deal with it. That's what I'm getting. Oh, this one's cute. This draw is precious. So something has ended, but there's hope for something new on the horizon. And quite frankly, this ending and new beginning, this healing that's going to be coming as a result of this death in your life is going to bring you a lot of joy. So whatever it is that is ending was something that maybe wasn't right for you. Maybe you knew that it wasn't right for you. And so there's a part of you that's really happy that this is over. And quite frankly, you need to honor that part of you. You don't have to be sad every time something ends. Let that joy kind of permeate. Let that hope for a new beginning kind of permeate your entire being, because that's how you're going to heal and that's how you're going to move past this. Ten of Coins. Excited confusion. This can speak to being drawn in. This can speak to so this card is similar to several other cards in this deck. I've got several different spirals going here, and each spiral has a different meaning, but every time a spiral comes up, it's meant to show that there are a lot of different emotions that are at play at once. So the purple spiral with all the blank space, to me, is about it really speaks to this idea of not knowing what's in the future, but being mesmerized by the opportunity. So 10 of Coins, Page of Wand, and, and the spiral are giving like this idea of you've been pulled in, perhaps by a charlatan, or perhaps by something real, but you've been pulled into these promises of riches, these promises of opportunity, and you've kind of made some impulsive decisions when pursuing those, and now you are perhaps becoming a little bit disillusioned, and you see the situation for what it is, and you recognize that this maybe isn't a goal that's going to come out of it, and perhaps you're starting to shake off that that mesmerization, and you're starting to see the situation for what it really is. Here's another card that's meant to symbolize rot, but this one is a different kind of symbolization. So where the previous card was sluggishness, was rot, was decay, this one is more like symbiotic relationships with the bacteria and plaques that make us up. So this speaks to a more positive relationship with decay. This card speaks to a more positive relationship with microbiome. So having this between the Six of Coins and the Lovers, to me, just reminds me that you need to be putting effort into your own body. You need to be putting effort into your own microcosm, because you are committed to the tiny little creatures that make you up, and you have to be charitable with yourself because you are an entire cosmos. You are not just one thing. And so that relationship that you have with your body really needs to be honored for what it is, and you need to be giving your body the love and support that it needs to keep going. And when I say love and support, I'm not talking about bubble baths. I'm talking about eating your vegetables, honey. Eat your vegetables. I am so good at not knowing how long 10 minutes is. My camera keeps cutting me off and I just keep not noticing. So we did miss a couple of combinations with this one with the Fountain Tarot, but I think you get the idea. It works really well with the Fountain Tarot. Now I want to look at it with the Rosebud. The backs don't go together nearly as good as they did with the Fountain Tarot, but that's okay. Let us take a look at the fronts. Whoop. I did finally get around to edging my copy of the Rosebud Tarot with this gorgeous, like, maroon burgundy. I think it's so pretty. I was thinking originally about edging it with a mixture of reds and pinks, but I like the way just this one color turned out. All right. We got the Seven of Fire, we got Bumpy, and we got the Sovereignty of Fire. So there's this idea here that you are very happy to be making the choices that you're making right now. I'm getting the vibe that these choices are maybe not choices that you're making for yourself. Perhaps you're defending a friend or a loved one. Perhaps you are even pursuing activism in some way. Seven of Fire and Sovereignty of Fire, like that's giving me the idea that you're on the right track, that you're making the right decisions, that your actions are well thought out and worthy of the energy that you're putting into them. And I think that whatever you're doing right now, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, is the right call. You're making the right choices, and you just have to continue to carry that energy forward to finish out your task. Curiosity of Air, Sunshine, and the Professor. Oh, that is so cute. This really, to me, speaks to this idea of returning to school. So the Curiosity of Air is all about learning. So the pages, which is what the Curiosity Suite is, the pages are all, or I'm sorry, the Curiosity Court. The pages are all about learning, and since the Suite of Air is, the Suit of Air is all about the mind, to me, the page of air is the ultimate student. In some ways, this is a student that doesn't think that they need to study. This is a student that perhaps thinks that they already know everything. But this is a student that's going to ace the tests, you know? They may not do their homework all the time, but they're going to ace the test. And then we get the Professor over here. And actually, when I work with this deck, the combination of the Fox and the presence of the Professor, if I were doing a reading for myself, this would actually tell me that I need to pull out my intuitive night goddess and talk to Hecate a little bit, because when foxes or any sort of dog shows up in this deck in combination with the Professor, that just screams Hecate to me. But in this reading, it says you're going back to school and you're gonna fucking love it, baby. It's time for you to get into that learner's mindset again. There's somebody in your life that you can really, even if it's not like physically going back to school, if you're not going to college, if you're not getting your GED, that's fine. You don't have to literally do that. But now's a learning opportunity for you. And it's, so this card here, I like to interpret this as either a sun like for joy or for dawning or for sunsetting. But I've got another card in this deck that a little bit more represents the sunrise, sunset to me. I also like to turn this card upside down and have it represent a kitchen table. I don't know if anybody else sees it, but I definitely do. So this card speaks to me to a fellowship with somebody who is able to bring a higher understanding into your life. Whether this means you go back to school or rather, or you just pay attention to a mentor figure in your life, there's a really great learning opportunity that's going to bring you a lot of joy, and you need to just soak it up. Two of Fire, Nine of Air, and Feathery Uncertainty. That's a good reading right there. Okay, so you're in the middle of planning for some passionate project that you're working on, but you are bogged down by fear about how it's going to turn out. The fact of the matter is that as long as you're in the early stages of this project, you're not going to know how it ends. You have to trust the process. Uncertainty is part of creation. Uncertainty is part of passion. It's part of what we pursue. And, while it is necessary to try to plan for those uncertainties, you also need to recognize that you cannot plan for everything, and that ultimately you have to stop worrying about like actively putting energy into the emotion of worry rather than just taking steps to try to get around that worry. So what I mean is, if you are planning a plan B for when something goes wrong, that's great. That's awesome. Make that plan B. However, you do not need to emotionally invest in plan B until you get there. You need to get rid of this Nine of Air. You need to get rid of this uncertainty, and you need to focus on the planning. That's the reading I'm getting there. Four of Water, Hunting or Stalking, and Velocity of Earth. So this card is, when it was painted, what I was thinking of is a tiger moving through the jungle, or a large cat moving through the savannah, what have you, hunting, stalking, pursuing prey. This card to me is looking through the leaves of the bush and finding what it is you're after. When that pairs with the Four of Water and the Velocity of Earth, I'm getting this feeling that right now you are not appreciating what you have, and there's something new that you're trying to pursue, but the hunt is not worth it, baby. Right now, your own, like, okay, the velocity of Earth, this card shows the Knight of Earth being a very in motion kind of card, which is not how I understand personally the Knight of Earth to be. So you'll notice in the background all of these other cattle. Our friend here, the Knight of Earth, is the velocity of Earth, is taking care of all of these cattle, defending all of these cattle. So you really need to get back into a place of focusing on what you have. Stop with the stalking, stop with the pursuing new, stop with the what's next, because it's not bringing you any joy. Pursuing new things is not actually bringing you joy. You need to get in touch with what you have, with the cattle that are all around you, and you need to let go of your own apathy. Now, that's not an easy thing to do. Perhaps the pursuit can be made more fun if you switch it from pursuing new things to having this stalking mindset over what you already have. Maybe it's time to shop your stash. Maybe it's time to get out your off-season wardrobe. Get a little bit frisky with what you've already got. Get a little bit creative with how you look at the world around you and bring this energy into what's already there. The wheel, the hang up, and vomit. All right. So this speaks to the idea that you're going through something right now. You are caught on something that is not bringing you joy, something that is bringing you nausea, frustration, anxiety, and ultimately is changing your output from good to bad. And that's just how it is right now. You don't have control over this situation. You are not going to be able to get past it until the wheel turns on its own. And right now, I just need you to have your head over the toilet and get through it. If you can, maybe find somebody to hold your hair for you while you puke. That's what I'm getting. Sovereignty of Earth, Eight of Water, and Difficulties of Joy. So you'll notice again, this card was supposed to be neon. You can't see it on camera, but this is a neon peach and this is a neon lemon yellow. But this is about the ways in which sometimes our joy conflicts with itself. The things that make us happy don't always make us happy together. So Sovereignty of Earth, you have everything that you could possibly need materially. Eight of Water, you have to let something go. Something that's still bringing you joy, satisfaction, or otherwise that you're not ready to leave behind because your own happiness is butting against your property. So maybe you've been having a hoarder's mindset. Maybe you've been holding on to physical objects because you think that they're going to be important in the future. And now, even though having things to fulfill your needs, having that comfort and security of material abundance is super important to you right now, but ultimately you have to clean up. You've got to get rid of some stuff because right now, the things that make you happy are butting heads, and it's not making you happy the way that you think that it is. There's something that has to be left behind here, and so you need to analyze the situation. I'm really getting the vibe that whatever that needs to be left behind is a physical object, like clean up your trash, throw away your old clothes, get rid of the wardrobe that you wore in high school. All right, all you missed when it cut me off was me ranting about how you need to leave behind the pants that you wore in high school, give them to your niece, let her wear them. Flare jeans are not your thing anymore. Let it go. Now I want to take a look at this deck with the Zeke's Arcana, which is another one of my favorite decks. Backs look okay. I don't love them. I don't hate them. Let's take a look at the fronts together. Oh, I love this deck so much. The Zeke's Arcana is easily my favorite artwork in a deck. Alrighty. Anytime Julia Rich, who is the artist of this deck, if she makes another tarot deck, I will be getting it. Alright, so now we have the Star, Blue, and the 10 of Pentacles or 10 of Coins. So this to me speaks to this idea that you are in a place of pursuing the future that you want, the material and legacy future that you want, but I don't necessarily know that right now it's giving you joy. I think right now what it's giving you is healing. I think that the pursuit that you are after, the abundance that you're looking for, is an emotional healing. I'm getting this energy that right now your own abundance is going to be not in the physical, not in the monetary, but in the relational. So the hope, the healing, the new beginnings, the path that you are following is one that is going to bring you abundance, but not necessarily, like, does that make sense? Like, you're going to encounter abundance of friends, abundance of love, abundance of family, perhaps. And right now, I think that you are still feeling the tower. You're still feeling what came before. But I'm telling you, it's going to get better. It really is. Like, that's what this reading, if I were doing this reading for someone, I would talk about. Oh, okay. Page of Wands, Nine of Swords, and this card here, this card is meant to be, how do I say this? Labia? This is a vulva. This is meant to be a, yeah, it's female parts. Not even female. It's, X chromosomal parts. It's not even that. It's vulva. It's vulva. Let's just be honest. But it's also passion. This card is also passion and love. It's also kind of anger. It's the kind of blood that you let when you have to. So it's all of those things in one. Page of Wands is, to me, all about impulsiveness, all about, like, this idea of starting new educational ventures, of working on projects, of pursuing dreams, and of perhaps being really impulsive and making bad choices about it, but that's the fun of it because you're super passionate about what you're doing. And then over here, the Nine of Swords speaks to anxieties and fears. I'm going to, based on the other two cards in this spread, I'm going to interpret this card as being sort of a shadow reading, where it's like these anxieties and fears are looming over you, but you are so stuck on the goal that they're not even touching you. And for that, I'm proud of you. You are not letting your own fear of failure get in the way of trying it out. And for that, I really think that you're going to see the results that not necessarily you envision, but the results that you have earned. Let's put it that way. You might not necessarily, the vision may not look the same in the real world as it does in your head, but it's gonna be good. Oh, yep. King of Wands, Ten of Swords, and hard stubbornness. You are, quite frankly, ignoring the emotional needs of the people around you for the sake of your own accomplishments. And that's gonna stab you in the back. If you're not careful about letting people in, if you do not pull down those walls, if you do not stop being so goddamn stubborn, you are going to undermine all of your goals. You are not going to achieve what you want. And this idea of you being the king of your domain is going to crumble. You need to let other people in. You need to take the advice of whoever's telling you that you're wrong. Because right now, even though I know you think that you've got it all figured out, you don't. You really don't. Okay, Page of Coins, Judgment, and the All-Seeing Eye. So Judgment, of course, and the Eye go together really well. This idea that you are being called by a higher power to do something beautiful and amazing. The Page of Coins tells me that whatever it is that you're being called to do is something with your hands. There's something that you need to create to bring into this world. It might be a message that you need to pass on. So if you've had any ideas lately about art, about physical projects, anything that you can create, I think it's time, even though you don't have the skills to do it, I really get the feeling that you are called to do so, and that that it's going to be something that people will recognize you for. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps in the future, but there's a call here to, perhaps it comes from within even, perhaps this judgment call is coming from within, and you're being called to this next stage of life. You need to get back into a learner's mindset and tackle this new idea that you have. And be very careful. Don't let the opinions of others change the way that you make it, because their eyes can fall on this project once it's done. So we get the 6 of Cups, anxiety, and the 8 of Cups. So there is something from your past that you are walking away from, and it's really scaring you. You don't know what the future is going to look like without this emotional crutch that you had, that you are letting go of. Perhaps you are leaving a person behind. Perhaps you're going no contact with your family. Perhaps you've broken up with, like you've ended a relationship that you knew wasn't going to work out, but that you were still invested in. And now as you move forward, you don't know what the path has in store for you. It is an eclipse and you are sort of traversing unknown terrain. I get it. You're dealing with a lot of overwhelming emotions and you want to go back to the way things were, but you can't, sweetie. You can only keep moving forward. Justice, Orange, and the Patron. Okay, let me contemplate this for a minute. This is a collection of cards that I have to think on. So Justice, we get this idea of balance, of fairness, of being held accountable by your peers. The Patron, we get this idea of putting money into the arts or whatever brings you joy that you don't necessarily work on yourself. And then Orange to me speaks to this intense earthiness, this groundedness, this quasi-sexual energy. And when I say quasi-sexual, what I really mean is like personal power. This power of creation that we all have within us, right? So perhaps you have been spending a lot of time supporting others. Perhaps you have been spending a lot of time putting money into the endeavors of others. But I'm getting that maybe right now is an opportunity for you to step away from supporting others and instead allow them to support you in return, I guess. Like this Orange, again, speaks to this personal power that you have. And Justice, I'm not getting balance from Justice right now. I'm getting this idea of reciprocity. So I really think that now is your turn to maybe be the creator rather than the patron. Maybe it's time to flip it on its head, or vice versa. If you have been creating for a long time, maybe it's time for you to be the patron instead. Instead of expecting yourself to make everything, maybe there's somebody out there who can make what you want for you. That one's difficult. That one was a hard read. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here because there's so much more that I want to talk about in this video, other than just playing with pairs. So I'm going to go ahead and end that there. Let me get this deck put away. Okay, before I let you go today, I do want to talk about the deck that I'm currently working on. I actually thought that I was already filming this part, and surprise, surprise, the camera cut me off. I really, really need to set a timer for 10 minutes. But I am currently working on making a collage style deck. It's going to be, the cards that I'm working on are 3.5 inches by 5 inches, so it's going to be made either in poker size or in standard oracle size, or I might do both, make a big one and a small one. Actually, that's what I think I'm going to do for myself, have a pocket size version of this deck and then have a big one. But let me show you a preview of the 13 cards I've been working on so far. When I originally recorded this, I was going through and giving you definitions of the card. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to let you look and enjoy, because this one I will be writing a guidebook for. This one I will also be releasing to the general public when it's done, just because I'm so proud of it. I think about 5 people might purchase it, but hey, that's 5 people who see my artwork and who go, hey, I resonate with that, let me use it. I'm definitely going to be sharing this with all of my friends and family who are even remotely interested, so that they can, or rather will be forced to, look at the artwork that I made. I'm gonna make a copy of this and give it to my mommy. I'm just so proud of the collage that I, like, this was my first time truly working with mixed medium. So it's watercolor, it's acrylic, it's magazine, it's printer paper, it's washi stickers, it's literally anything that I think that I can grab and make look the way I want it to. So those are the 13 cards I've got done so far. I already have prompts, or rather keywords, written up for the entire deck. So there are going to be at least 40 cards in this deck, possibly more. I would like to eventually get it up to 50, but I'm going to start with 40 and see how that shakes out. To me, any Oracle deck should have 50 cards. 40 is going to be the bare minimum. 50 is my goal. So that's how that's going. I have 41 prompts written at this time. So, you know, I might come up with some more prompts. I might not. But that is what I'm working on now. And just to compare, like, this is just watercolor. And one of the frustrations I had when I made this deck was that I was trying to get texture into it, but it's actually really hard to get texture out of watercolor when you don't know what you're doing with watercolor. And that's another reason that I don't want to release this deck to the public. I cannot stress enough how amateurish my control of watercolor was when I made this deck. But making this deck was... This is a penis. This is in the same way that the other one was a vulva. This is a penis. Did I show you the vulva? Did we do that one? Or did that get cut off? Vulva. What was I saying? Oh, I've definitely grown in my control of watercolor since I made this deck, and part of that growth process was making this deck, so I can't be too mad about it. I'm really happy. This card is lesbians. I'm really happy to have made this deck, to have finished a project, and to now feel confident enough to finish this new project that I've started, so that's cool. I'm so proud of myself. And I know that a haughty spirit, pride goeth before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall, yada yada, the Lord said. But I think I deserve to be proud of myself for finally completing an artistic project in my life. I'm nearly 30 years old, so I'm happy to finally be at the point as an adult where I can trust myself to finish what I start. I don't know. Maybe some of y'all out there can relate to that. But I've kept y'all here for more than long enough, just showing off a deck that y'all are not going to be able to get. So let me let you go. This really was a self-indulgent video. I greatly appreciate all of y'all being here for this. If you have watched to the end, great, you rule. Leave me a clock down below in the comments if you watched all the way to the end. Comment an emoji of a clock so that I know that you finished the video. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are. Mwah! I love you. Bye.